Sometimes, but working with spiritual children, you can get a headache.
When you shower, make sure it's not leaking. We had times before we like, we're all ready.
But it's not common. I'm coming to you.
Take time. Hurry up. Hurry. Do what? I hate interrupting all that. I hate to stop. All right, y'all break it up back there. Y'all break it up. What are y'all doing? I hate even interrupting to having such a good time.
Break it up to fellowship. Somebody had to do it.
But they still carrying on. They ain't paying me no mind. Which is fine.
They said I'm gonna get fired.
You gonna get fired. All right. All right, y'all. Well, welcome back to Road to Sharon. It's glad to hear some people laughing around here. It's good to see y'all having a good time like that, carrying on. In way of announcements, all I have right now is Sunday morning we will have a Gideon speaker here. Mr. Ron Preston will be here, and I believe Brother Randy Willoughby will be here Sunday evening. He's going to preach for us Sunday evening. So if y'all can, please be here.
Ron's a good speaker.
Is he?
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever heard him
Board of
speak.
Beargrass Charter School for a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's an ECU professor.
Okay.
Until he retired. And then he retired from the board of the charter school.
Okay.
When he got up with that.
I did not know that.
You'll
Okay.
enjoy it.
All right. And let's see. Before we get into prayer requests, I'd like to go ahead and sing a song if y'all would sing with me. At Calvary, number 492, First and Last. And it should be on the screen. Yeah. easy to sing song there. Thank you, Miss Beverly.
Good to have her back.
Yep. Yeah, she said they had a pretty good trip up there to Duke and back. Yep, Glenn took good care of her, she said. Update on Miss Jane Harrell, if y'all haven't heard, they got moved to a hospice, and she's in room 317 over there. And they have done some swallow tests with her a couple times. And Donald said they had her hooked up earlier with a bunch of probes on her head, checking things out. And tomorrow they're supposed to do an MRI and then go from there and see exactly what happened and exactly what they might need to do.
Think she had a stroke?
They said if it was a very light stroke, but you never know with those things. You never know. Something light could turn into something worse, or you could go on for years and it never happen again. But hopefully she's in the right place where they can get that MRI done and get it figured out. I don't know how many of y'all have heard it. Apparently I was late to hearing it, but Charlie Kirk, y'all recognize that name?
I heard all about it all afternoon.
Yeah, Charlie Kirk, he goes to a bunch of colleges and speaks. He's a conservative debater, pretty much is what I would call him. And he got shot earlier today and he passed away. So be in prayer for that family there. He was in
this country.
Yeah, this country, exactly. I was talking to a couple people earlier about, the young lady that got stabbed on the train there in Charlotte. And I mean, now that the full videos come out, there were a bunch of people around her and nobody did anything.
They did anything.
Yeah. No, nobody did anything. Nobody called anybody. Yeah, country's in a sad state, y'all.
This afternoon, the three gentlemen on the TV were talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
Three news people. And all three of them, they said they were men of God. And when was the last time you heard anybody say that outwardly on TV?
Yeah.
They were men of God, but they said they believed in people having the right to speak what they think. They believed in having the right to discuss it. And there was also a right to maybe get mad.
Yeah.
But not to kill.
Yeah. Everybody's got their rights to their own opinions, and everybody's got the right to speak a fact, or even if it isn't a fact. but to attack somebody like that, it's just, I don't know, it's a sinful world. That's all we can say. And and the grace of God is the only thing that keeps any of us from doing something like that, really. I mean, it is. We look at people like that that did the stabbing and did the shooting, and how in the world could they do that? They're so bad, but I mean, I've never shot or killed anybody, but I've wished ill of somebody before. I have. And from what Jesus said, that's just as bad. But I'm not preaching either, y'all. But I mean, I'm no better than they are.
I understand there was a Colorado school shooting today.
Oh, was there? I did not hear about a school shooting.
Charlie Kirk, they kind of, yes.
I got you.
I think there's three of us have
I hadn't heard, I don't know.
So there's 3 students in critical condition? Yeah, I didn't even hear about that at all. I'm sure there's somebody to add to the prayer list, y'all. Y'all have anybody you want to bring up, or anything you want to bring up?
Judy Belch. I don't think she's on there. She must have got removed.
Judy Belch.
She's been in the hospital about 9 days on reaction from the chemo. You know who she is?
Been in the hospital 9 days.
Yeah, she's home now. Do you know who she is?
Judy Belch.
Jackie's mom. Jackie Harrison.
Oh, okay. Jackie Harrison now. Her mama. Okay. I know who you're talking about.
And also Lynn Hodges. She runs meetings on 264.
Lynn Hodges.
She's going to have surgery next week at Mass on the intestine.
On her intestine. Gonna have a mass removed from her intestine.
cousin, Charlie Finsky. Actually, he's married to my cousin, Nancy Coltrane from Robertsonville. One of Aunt Rachel's daughters.
Okay.
Anyway, Charlie's got cancer really bad, and he's a short timer.
All right. Charlie Finsky.
Finsky.
Has
Just like it's
okay.
sounds.
Charlie Finsky has cancer, and apparently he doesn't have long.
Lord, be gracious if you don't
Yeah.
have one. He's in bad shape.
Okay.
Timmy, put me on the prayer list, and then on December 22nd, might ask you to take it off.
Okay. All right.
Y'all pray for me through December 22nd, then I'll leave
So Miss Bill wants to be on the prayer list until.
No, she don't.
Well, you don't want to. She is requested to be added to the prayer list. How about that? Until December 22nd, and she'll let us know something.
Last time I go back to it.
Well, I hope you get a good report for Christmas.
I have a praise item. My brother-in-law, Tracy Kelly, went into AFib last Friday night, and he had, they sent him home with a heart monitor, and he had installed a equipment Monday afternoon, and I think it was a combination of being on the private side and dehydration.
Huh.
So,
Okay.
very fortunate.
So that's Tracy Kelly, is that right? All right. Tracy Kelly went into AFib, but they said it was apparently dehydration and complication with some medicine, and he's doing good. That's good. I'm glad you got a praise item. You know, we don't hear a lot of praise items around here sometimes. We kind of keep them to ourselves for some reason.
Okay, I'll give you another.
Yeah, give me one.
I mentioned that, Wayne Humphrey, who had heart problems at our office, was back to work, and the way I mentioned him Sunday, but also Scott Godboy, is on our prayer list, and we can take him off because he's back to work.
I guess it's this thing. All right, I want to make sure I get those names right. You said Blaine Humphreys, is that correct? And Scott, what was it? God of Royd. Okay.
He's on my prayer list.
Okay.
I sent y'all a note to him.
Wow. Okay. I'm glad to hear that.
He got his driver's license.
He got his driver's license back? Okay.
The doctor told him not to drive.
Yeah. Well,
I've got two things.
okay.
First of all, the family of Carolyn Moore, my cousin Jim Hodges' mother-in-law. She had a heart attack, passed. She had other health problems, and they really couldn't do anything for her. So she just passed away the other day, a few moments yesterday.
All right.
And also a praise item. You know, we've talked to some of y'all individually, but I would like to say out loud, we are just so thankful that some of y'all know the struggles that we have had trying to get our insurance company with the roof, and I'm so thankful that that is done and finished and all repairs are made, and we can move forward and stop stressing about it.
Now the rain stopped. The farmers are upset with y'all right now because they can't get any rain. But I'm glad y'all finally got you a new roof. That is definitely a praise item.
It's been a stressful 7-8 months, I'm telling you.
Yeah. And did everything inside get fixed too?
Yes, hallelujah.
Good.
Thank you, thank you.
It's the little things. I just got my refrigerator fixed. This is nice. I don't have nerve struggle, but it does stress you out.
Yeah.
We started this year with even a new hot water heater in the refrigerator running out.
My entire family has something going wrong in
Yes.
every household this year.
Wow. And in case y'all didn't hear it, remember the Carolyn Moore family, in case y'all didn't hear that over there on the other side. She had a heart attack and passed away. Yes, sir. Todd Thomas's mama. Okay, I did not know that. So remember that family.
Her name is Brenda.
Brenda. All right.
I
Anyone?
don't need prayer, but Lisa had school tonight. She's doing her Wednesday night, occasional Wednesday night class.
Okay. All right. Well, we can still pray she gets home safely.
She's
Maybe.
at home doing it.
Oh, she's at home doing
It's
it.
a
Okay.
Zoom thing.
Okay. And I'll give y'all something else to pray
She'd rather
for.
be here, I guarantee you.
I'll give y'all something else to pray for. I know y'all seen these guys around here putting this fiber cable and stuff down around here. Y'all pray for them guys because they are doing a dangerous job right now. Those guys are all across the road, up and down, parking their trucks half on the road and stuff, and I'm just waiting for somebody to get hurt. So y'all pray for them guys. I mean, they're out there working hard and doing what they need to do, but it's dangerous.
This one is so hot, they were out there in the heat early this year.
And remember Roger Coltrane, right on.
Yeah. Do you have an update on him?
Update.
Yeah.
Yeah, we heard that, Glenn hadn't talked to anybody but Kevin. Kevin's talked to Roger Jr.
Uh-huh.
And he said that we'll get him up to sit, and it's very tiring, and when they say, oh, he can walk, but it's a shuffle about 4 steps, so it's not really like he's walking all over the hospital.
Yeah. Well, he's blessed to be able to take them shuffling steps, I can tell you that.
Yes, he's been blessed. If Betty Jean looked like she got caught in I don't know what, she was bruised all over pretty bad, and we went right by him when it happened, and to have a truck crawl up the back of your car,
Mm-hmm.
it's amazing, either one of them.
Yeah. Yeah, y'all continue to remember Mr. Roger Coltrane. He'll probably be recovering for quite some time over that one. I probably would be if that happened to me. Yeah. And remember his wife too. I'm sure she's still sore at this moment from all that. Anybody else? All right. Herb, would you pray for us, please?
Heavenly Father, we thank you for loving us and caring for us and forgiving us, blessing us. Lord, when we go through the day of this life and we get to the end and we're still able to get around and we're healthy, Lord, it is quite a blessing. This world is in a mess. We think about countries where other countries are just bombing and tearing up everything, but it's right here in the United States that people will just up and kill someone. Lord, we need you. We need you not just for ourselves, Lord, but we need your spirit to touch the spirit of those that are so driven by Satan that they might turn and see that there is a better way. Lord, we thank you that we've been able to see that, and we just don't know how to tell you how much we love you for that. We thank you for this time that we can gather here tonight as Christian brothers and sisters, and we can worship you and hear your word and hear about those we need to bring to you for your care. Lord, several lost loved ones, we just ask that you would reach down and touch them and touch their hearts and their spirit, Lord, and help comfort. Those who are sick and in the hospital, Lord, we just ask for your hand to be on them and to bless them. And when we've heard good reports, Lord, and we thank you for that. We know that you use medicine and doctors, but we know the healing comes from you, and we're so grateful. Thank you for Jesus. Thank you for salvation. And all you do for us in Jesus' name.
Thank you, Herb. And before I ask Terry to come up here, I'll give y'all another praise item, and it'll give you something to gossip about the rest of the week. we're going hopefully induct another couple into the church this coming Sunday morning. So to me, that is a praise item for something like that to be happening right now. So I just want to give y'all that tonight. You know, something to be happy about, to carry you on until Sunday morning when you find out who it is. But it'll also get you talking to each other too. But I'm so appreciative that Terry is willing to come out again and continue to tell us a little bit more about Jonah. Thank you, Terry. And next time I'll pick a better microphone, Wayne. I don't know what's wrong with the thing.
Thank you, Terry.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank y'all for coming. I appreciate that remark about Charlie Kirk too. Regardless of how you feel politically, he did try to point people to Christ as well as the political things that he did. It's just a violent world where you can't disagree anymore, regardless of which side of the fence you fall on. But it just seems to be getting worse. So it is good news when you hear about, you know, new church members and church growing and just the vibe that you get. And I'm thankful to be here tonight. We are going through the book of Jonah, the little book of Jonah. We're in chapter 2 tonight. You guys aren't already there. Just a little catch up for anybody that may have missed it, just briefly. This is our third night. The first night we just kind of covered an introduction to Jonah and who he was and the time period that the book was written in, the Ninevites, the Assyrians, and how they fit into everything, into the world stage. They were the world power at that time. They were very brutal. But we talked about that, and we talked about how in the book of Jonah you see several things. One of the things you see, of course, is a picture of Calvary. You see a picture of the crucifixion. Jesus himself made reference to it when he said, just as Jonah was in the belly of the whale 3 days and 3 nights, so must the Son of Man be in the heart of the earth. We also see the Great Commission, because typically in the Old Testament, the world, if they wanted to learn about Jehovah, they had to come to Israel. Queen of Sheba came to see Solomon in all his splendor and learn about his wisdom and how he was being blessed, and all the things that the world had told about Solomon. So the mode at that time was the world came to Israel. Well, in the New Testament, of course, we have the Great Commission, and we're to go out to the world. So it's kind of been flipped upside down. This is one of the few times in the Old Testament where they were actually sent out. You know, he sent to the Assyrians, to Nineveh. So that's a picture of the Great Commission. And you just, on a more, like on the level plane, you just see a disobedient servant, a rebellious servant who did not want to go to these people who he despised. We talked about how they could be compared to maybe the way we felt about the Russians during the Cold War, or maybe the Chinese now, or whoever's your enemy at any particular point in time. That's how the Ninevites were viewed. And quite frankly, Jonah did not want them to be saved. And God gave him a message of, revival to these people. And he didn't want to deliver it because he didn't want to see them spared. So Jonah had a lot of hate in his heart at the time too, didn't he? We were just talking about hate in the world and how people, if I don't agree with you, I hate you kind of thing. Well, Jonah had no use for the Ninevites. So tonight, we're picking up in chapter 2, and we're just going to start in verse 1. Then Jonah prayed unto the Lord his God out of the fish's belly, and said, I cried by reason of mine affliction unto the Lord, and he heard me. Out of the belly of hell cried I, and thou heardest my voice. For thou hadst cast me into the deep in the midst of the seas, and the floods compassed me about. All thy billows and thy waves passed over me. Then I said, I am cast out of thy sight, yet I will look again toward thy holy temple. The waters compassed me about, even to the soul. The depth closed me round about. The weeds were wrapped around my head. I went down to the bottom of the mountains. The earth with her bars was about me forever. Yet hast thou brought me up my life from corruption, O Lord my God. When my soul fainted within me, I remembered the Lord, and my prayer came in unto thee. into thine holy temple. They that observe lying vanities forsake their own mercy. But I will sacrifice unto thee with the voice of thanksgiving. I will pay that I have vowed. Salvation is of the Lord. And the Lord spake unto the fish, and it vomited out Jonah upon the dry land. May God add a blessing to the reading and hearing of his holy word. So, we start out in verse 1. It says, Then Jonah prayed unto the Lord his God out of the fish's belly. Now, I presented to you the miracle of Jonah. And I guess the most commonly accepted miracle is that Jonah survived 3 days in the belly of the whale, and he came out and he survived. That is certainly one view. Another view is that he actually died, and what happened to him was God resurrected him from the dead. They're both miracles, and whichever one you choose to believe is fine with me, because I can't be explicit about that because it doesn't explicitly say. I can give you hints as to why it could be one way or the other, but just keep that in the back of your mind. But here we go. It says, Jonah prayed to the Lord his God out of the fish's belly. Now, do you think Jonah did that praying on day 2.5?
I say about minute 10.
Thank you, Brother Phil. And thank you for commenting. And anybody that wants to comment, this is just one big Sunday school class, okay? I want y'all to be interactive if you feel it. Please speak out. Thank you, Phil. That's exactly right. When I was a kid...
I'm happy he didn't drown, but then get swallowed by a fish to keep from drowning. That's still kind of like frying pan into the fire.
That's true. That's true. When I was a kid, I got saved at a very early age. And so I was 7 during a revival. And anyhow, I would think about what I would do if I knew I was facing death. And one of the things that I would envision is if I was in a plane, and it was going down. Maybe y'all thought something similar. What would you do? What would you think? And I would imagine myself, or if you're on a submarine, whatever the case may be, and death is certain. I've often thought, what would I be doing? I suppose I'd be on my knees praying to God, please forgive me of my sin. Now, I know more about the Bible now, and I know that my salvation is kept by my Savior, right? But I had a different view of things as a child, and I thought I needed to be, quote unquote, prayed up. And I do think it's good to pray and ask for forgiveness of your sins. I think we're taught to do that. But anyhow, I would just worry, would I have time to pray? And that's where Phil's comment was coming from. When he was going down in that water, regardless of whether you believe either of those two particular angles I presented to you, he didn't know what was going to happen to him. And he thought he was going to die. And so I can tell you that he didn't wait until the second day or 30 minutes into it. He was praying as soon as it happened. I'll tell you this. In 2022, when Esther and I went over to the ED when she had lost vision in one of her eyes, and they told us that was 10 p.m. Y'all have heard this many times, but at 3 a.m. the doctor came in and said, I've got bad news. Her aneurysm is dissecting and you need to see a surgeon. And I thought that meant next week. I didn't know. I didn't know how quickly it was dissecting. I'm a lay person, and use a pun, I'm a fish out of water. Okay, talk about fish. I'm a fish out of water there. And so I thought, well, that sounds pretty bad, but I guess we'll see one next week. And then he said, I'm going to go see if I can find a surgeon. And 30 minutes later, he came back and said, we can't treat you here, but UNC has agreed to take you, and they're flying a helicopter to pick her up. Well, our jaws dropped. And Esther said, is that really necessary? Didn't you, honey? Because, we're in shock. Said, is that really necessary? He said, oh, yeah. And then she said, can he come too? No, ma'am, he can't come. There's just room for you. He said, but if you take off and get in your car right now, you may make it in time for the surgery. So anyhow, I called. I got my children, told them all what was going on. Kristen was living at home. Jackson had just moved out a month before, but I called him, and I called Bill, and I told him what was happening. I said, please pray for her, and he did. And so I started off to Durham. And I've told some of y'all this before. I don't mean to embarrass Karen, but Karen prays a real earnest prayer. When she prays, she says, good morning, Lord, or something along those lines. And she speaks to him just like we speak to each other. A lot of us, and me, tend to, we grew up listening to people pray in the church, and we say things, I don't say, hallowed be thy name, or anything. I don't speak in the King James English of the 16th century. But we kind of have these ways that we pray. When your butt is in a sling like I thought it was that night, you don't pray that way. You pray, Father, please don't take her. Please don't take her. I need her. Please. And I said that all the way for that 2 hours or whatever it was drive. And I think that's what Jonah was doing. He was just, he jumped right into his prayer. And that's the way I prayed when I thought death was imminent with Esther. And God was very good to us. He's good to everybody. But he spared Esther that night, and I'm eternally grateful for that. But, I think we have a very abridged edition of what happened here. Jonah didn't pen everything that was on his mind, but he gives you just kind of a bird's eye view of what's going on. And I will tell you this, the Hebrew way of writing Scripture was like this, and I'll give you an example. They would write a very brief summary, and then they would come back and tell the same thing and expand it. If you look at the account in Genesis of creation, there's a very summarized version in chapter 1, right? God created the heavens and the earth, God. But in chapter 2, it expands it. It's not a different creation. He's talking about the same creation. He's just giving it to you in exquisite detail. And I think that's kind of the way Jonah was telling his story here. Any comments? But I think that prayer started ASAP. And then he says, and I cried by reason of mine affliction unto the Lord, and he heard me. Out of the belly of hell cried I, and thou heardest my voice. Well, see, another thing is, I love this because this is where a lot of times there's some confusion. Hell. There are certain words that get translated, and there are multiple words in the source language, but maybe only one word in the English language. Hell is one of those words. Hell in the Old Testament was Sheol. The Greek word, Hades. And it was two compartments. You will remember the story of rich man and Lazarus. And there was a gulf between them. But anyhow, hell means the abode of the dead. Okay, it could mean either side, but Sheol would be. But what the point I want to make in that? And when Jesus spoke of hell, he was speaking. If you look at the Greek word, whatever, it's Gehenna, and Gehenna was a reference to a dump that trash burned all the time. Okay, there was always somebody bringing. Y'all may remember when I was a kid, you'd go down like Warehouser roads, and people would dump their trash. They wouldn't burn it, but they would just dump their trash on these roads. That's just the way it was. There weren't dumps and things. And some people would burn it, some people would take it down. Well, there was this place in the kingdom where people would burn their trash. And it was continually burning. And that's what Jesus referenced for a picture of hell when he was preaching on the lake of fire, because it was always burning. It never quit burning. So there's basically three different words that get translated into hell, our word hell. But the original source word is a little different. I'm not trying to be academic here or whatever, but like one just means the place of the dead, and one can mean the lake of fire. You have to go to the original word. Well, here he's speaking of Sheol, and it's the place of the dead. So you see, you can take that and you can say, you get out of the belly of death, cried I, or the grave, because that's what Sheol was. Okay? So you can look at this and say, he died. He was in the underworld, the netherworld, however you choose to say it. But those three words all translate into hell. This is Sheol. But anyhow, it's the unseen world. It means where the dead go. Now, he talks about the belly of the fish. He's basically saying it was his grave. I'll just say to you, if you choose to believe that he was alive for 3 days, that's a miracle, and that's a great thing. But the greater miracle would be that he died and was resurrected. That's the greater miracle. But they're both great miracles. They both make the same point. And either one is fine, however you want to choose to believe it. I've come to this other understanding in the last year or so myself. And if you don't agree with me, that's okay. But I just want to give you some of the reasons for that understanding. Now, it's not a matter of whether somebody can live. God can make anything happen. He can make him survive in that fish. He could also resurrect him. He brought Lazarus back. But I do want to share some things with you about I had a video the first night where it actually showed a real whale swallowing a real person. Now, they vomited him right back up really quick. Didn't stay there 3 days, but it does happen. But I want to give you a few examples. And the word that's used that is sometimes translated whale or fish, it's like a sea monster. So we don't really know what it was. Even in the New Testament, somebody may say, it says whale. I know, and that's the way it was translated in the King James. And it could mean whale. It could very well mean whale. I told you when we were talking about this in the beginning, I'm a big Jaws fan. Could have been a great white shark, but probably not because of the teeth. But God could save him there too. God's capable of anything. But I do want to share some things with like a whale shark, which is really a whale. It's a great big old thing. They don't have teeth, and they eat plankton. Could have been a situation like that. There are different, and look, here's some examples. A sulfur bottom whale, 100 feet long, was captured off Cape Cod in 1933. Mouth was 10 or 12 feet wide. Could easily have swallowed a horse. And they have several compartments within their stomachs, which I didn't know. Here's some other specific examples. There was an article by this is Dr. Ransom Harvey, these go back in years, who said a dog was lost overboard from a ship and it was found in the head of a whale 6 days later, alive and barking. Yeah. And then there was tales of a shark 15 feet in length, which was found in the stomach of a whale. When the dying whale ejects the contents of its stomach, okay, and then it says, there's a head of a whale shark big enough to swallow the largest man. It's in a museum in Beirut, Lebanon at that time. It's able to swallow the largest man ever. And there was a white shark, great white, like Jaws, in the Mediterranean, which swallowed a whole horse. Another one swallowed a sea cow. Could have been a whale or a shark. It's just kind of fun to think about. But here's another one. A famous French scientist, M.D. Parville, writes of James Bartley, who in the region of the Falkland Islands near South America was supposed to have been drowned at sea. 2 days after his disappearance, the sailors made a catch of a whale. When it was cut up, much to their surprise, they found the missing friend alive but unconscious inside the whale. He revived and has been enjoying the best of health ever since his adventure. I'm not here to validate. I'm just telling you what I researched. And then here's another one. Dr. Harry Rimmer, president of the Research Science Bureau, Los Angeles at one time. He wrote of another case. The Literary Digest noticed an account of an English sailor who was swallowed by a gigantic, it's called rhinodon. I want to believe that's a whale shark, but anyhow, that's the technical word. But the account stated that in the attempt to harpoon one of these monstrous sharks, the sailor fell overboard, and before he could be picked up again, the shark turned and engulfed him. 48 hours after the accident occurred, the fish was sighted and slain. When the shark was opened by the sailors, they were amazed to find the man unconscious but alive. He was rushed to the hospital where he was found to be suffering from shock alone. A few hours later, was discharged as being physically fit. The account concluded by saying that the man was on exhibit in a London museum at a shilling admittance fee, being advertised as the Jonah of the 20th century. In 1926, Dr. Rimmer met this man and writes that his physical appearance was odd. His body was devoid of hair and patches of yellowish-brown color covered his entire skin. I know this sounds fantastic, but this is what was reported. So, what do we make of that? God's able to either account is God can manage it. He's able to do anything. For thou hast cast me into the deep, in the midst of the seas, and the floods compassed me about. All thy billows and thy waves passed over me. So, basically, that's saying that Jonah got wet. All that water was coming in on him. Then I said, I am cast out of thy sight, yet I will look again toward thy holy temple. Now, I think, again, he's speaking of death here. He's cast out of his sight. But he's speaking of Solomon's temple here that he intends to look at, because this is Old Testament. He intends to look at again. He believes that he's going to be raised again. Then it says, the waters compassed me about, even to the soul. The depth closed me round about. the weeds were wrapped around my head. What do you make of that? Seaweed. Seaweed would be my guess, right? It says the weeds. When I was a boy, I used to go swimming down at Blunt's Creek, and there's a place called Walls Landing, and my mama would take me and my little childhood friend Howard Adams down. We were 7 or 8. And there was like this steep hill that we would run down. You just couldn't help but run. And we would get to play in the water, and my mom would sit and talk to Miss Walls for an hour and a half, and then when she thought we'd had enough, she'd bring us, round us up and bring us on home. But I can remember then the seaweed that was in that and how creepy that felt. I could just imagine a water moccasin, the whole time I'm feeling that seaweed around. But now the seaweed is somewhat, you don't see as much of it. I don't. Maybe Tim shaking his head no. Tim knows a lot more about the water today than I do. I didn't think it was there anymore. And people sometimes attribute that to Texas Gulf. I don't know if that's the reason or not down in Aurora. But anyhow, however it got that way, that's the case today. There's not a lot of seaweed, but there was when I was a boy, and I think that's what he was feeling here. And it creeped him out like it did me back in the day. Then he says, I went down to the bottoms of the mountains, the earth with her bars was about me forever. Yet hast thou brought up my life from corruption. Now notice he says from corruption. What does the body do when it dies? It corrupts. The bars, he uses his analogy, the bars of death is what I'm hearing when I see that. It's an eloquent way to speak about the situation he found himself in. But I will say, see, the difference is Jesus also died, but he never corrupted. Corruption is death. The Apostle Peter used this word on the day of Pentecost when he said that the Lord Jesus did not see corruption. That's in Acts chapter 2, verses 25 to 31. So that's the miracle with Jesus. He didn't corrupt. We know Lazarus, remember? His sisters, they said, he stinketh. He's been dead 4 days. You're late. We used to sing a song, 4 days late. And basically she was saying, it's too late. Corruption's already set in. That's what Jonah is saying here. He's bringing him back from corruption. When my soul fainteth within me, I remembered the Lord. My prayer came in unto thee, into thine holy temple. Like Bill and I were talking about earlier, I think that prayer came in really quick. I think he remembered the Lord really quick. It's funny how when you're down on your luck and you don't have, I love that. A lot of times you'll think, I've got this situation, I can manage it. But if you find yourself with a terrible diagnosis or some sort of something that you don't see any way in the world that you can figure out, well, I think I'll give this one to the Lord. I can't manage this one, so I'm going to let you handle this one. I like that meme that says, heck, I need God even just to go to Walmart. and that's, we need God for everything. But we tend to divide things into, well, I can manage this. I'm going to give this one to God. When God is in control of all of it. Every breath, every day, every morning when you get up, you should thank God. He got you up. You put your feet on the floor. Your family's there. Just all the blessings we have, we take for granted, right? I mean, I know I do. If I'm not very careful, count your many blessings, count them one by one. Because you can take those things for granted until they're gone. But he says he remembered the Lord in his holy temple. Then he says, they that observe lying vanities forsake their own mercy. What do y'all think that means? That's a tough one. It is verse 8, I'm sorry. They that observe lying vanities forsake their own mercy.
My translation says, those who worship false gods turn their back, little g, turn their backs on all God's big G mercies.
Amen. And thank you. That was what I could come up with as well. But it was a little tough to discern, especially, of course, in the King James. But basically, they're not appealing to the one God that can actually help them, God the Father. They're appealing to some other God. And I was just telling you, there's certain things we say, well, I can manage this. I've got the money to fix this, right? The little g God that she was talking about just then, that's money. Or I'll take it to a doctor. And I'm not against doctors. I'm all for doctors. But I'm just saying, sometimes we put our faith in them instead of putting our faith in God. There are different things that can be idols in your life. That can be that little G she was speaking of. But you forego the mercy of God when you do that, when you put your faith in something else. You cheat yourself out of a blessing. Then he says, I will sacrifice unto thee with the voice of thanksgiving. I will pay that I have vowed. Salvation is of the Lord. That's a mouthful, isn't it? Salvation, that's the most important verse in this whole book. Salvation is of the Lord. Can you imagine the thanksgiving and gratitude that was in his heart when he was rescued from this dilemma that he was in? Can you imagine? But his initial thing was, God says, go to Nineveh. And he says, I'm not going to Nineveh. And then God, you know, you've heard that. There was a song many years ago, I think it was Hank Williams Jr., called Attitude Adjustment. Attitude Adjustment. God did a little attitude adjustment on Jonah. Sometimes he does that to us too. You know, sometimes something will come along, you think you got your life figured out, something shakes it up, turns it upside down, and he gets your attention. It's an attitude adjustment, straight from God. And that's what he had to do to Jonah. Sometimes he speaks to you subtly, but that didn't always get your attention. So in this case, he grabbed him and just turned his life up, nearly died. You know, obviously he had this great thing happen to him. Sometimes we have to be shaken up. I told you once I had a really bad accident. I was on the Grimesland, and that Grimesland Bridge jumped out in front of my little Honda CRX SI, totaled that car. It's like an egg, it's like a little egg, if you can remember what it was called. And my mama said, I was trying to talk to you, Terry, trying to get your attention. Of course, I didn't want to hear that. I think she was right, but I didn't want to hear that. Well, normally that's why he does those things, because you've gone deaf on his soft, tender voice. Softly and tenderly, Jesus is calling. You've gone numb to that. So then he ups the ante a little bit. He might cause an accident. He might cause some other kind of loss or tragedy or loss of job or anything in your life. Of course, everything that happens to you doesn't mean that you're being punished or that you're doing wrong, but sometimes it does. But now his mind is going to be on track. He's going to turn his life around, and instead of being the rebellious prophet, he's going to be the one that listens to God. Any comments?
Jerry, I was going to mention to you and I cannot remember who told me this, and that's nothing new either. But anyway,
I know how that is.
Saying when the whale or big fish,
Right.
and you mentioned bars and that kind of thing, was when you look at a globe and there's all these lines, and some of those lines, like the equator, then you've got different bars here. They said that fish could have gone miles and miles and miles in 3 days.
True.
And that was just one way you could look at it.
Right. That's true.
So, it's really, it's not wrong, but I mean, it's believable.
It is.
Because you wouldn't have a whale down there just waiting for a handout. After he got full, he takes off.
True. Any other comments? Okay. Then it says, and the Lord spake unto the fish, and it vomited out Jonah upon the dry land. So, Jonah's a different man now.
Where do you want me to go, Lord?
Exactly. Yeah, yes, sir. You've got my
What
attention.
can I do for you?
Yeah, exactly. You've got my. I don't care for these people, but I'm going because that's where you want me to go. And exactly. I don't know if y'all could hear that. She was saying that basically the acid in the stomach in the whale made the man's skin turn a ghostly white, or I I guess that's the best way to describe it. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that kind of pertains to the next chapter, because it would have got folks' attention, right? You see this guy looking like Universal horror monster, like Frankenstein or something, when he's all white, he's got seaweed, he looks like the Thing or something, and he's walking along saying the end is near. Might get your attention, if nothing else, just out of curiosity. That's a good comment, Ms. Nelly. Thank you. Any others? So, you know, it's hard, especially we were just talking about Charlie Kirk and current climate, girl getting throat cut on the commuter thing, and it's like, you're almost afraid to speak to people. Last time we spoke, Irvin mentioned how sometimes you're reluctant to go tell somebody because you don't know what kind of response you're going to get, right? Because we were talking about how I made the analogy of how people would come to Israel to learn about Jehovah. Now, in the Great Commission, they would go out to the nations, and how we as a church sometimes expect people to come into the church to learn about God, and we are to go out to the community. And Irvin just made the remark about, and I was saying how it can be difficult sometimes. That's not always comfortable. And he was saying how you don't know what kind of response you're going to get, you know? And in today's climate, there's some people you just, in a way, you don't really want to share it with because you're either afraid of them, you think you're going to get a hostile response. But that's what God tells us to do. We are to go and share the good news that we know about. We're not to keep it under a bushel basket. But it's not always easy. But he hated these people. But now God has changed his mind. So here's the takeaways from chapter 2. The Lord used the great fish to get Jonah's attention. Sometimes he uses attention getters with us too, such as an illness, job, prestige loss, even death. Jonah responded and turned to God. And then salvation is of the Lord. To me, those were the 3 big takeaways from chapter 2. Any final comments? Thank you all for being so attentive and for being here. I really appreciate it.
Here.
Yes, Bill.
The last verse has always stumped me, because if you think about, if that is such a huge fish, it would be in deep water. It would have to be in deep water. But it says he vomited him out on dry land. And I've been trying to figure that out. You know, the closer you get to land, the shallower it is. Unless there's places where it's a rocky. Maybe it was like rocky or something. But either way, that was a heck of a thrust. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Unless it was like deep water and it was, you know, a drop off. I guess going from the land.
I grew up around a creek, and you didn't swim. Sorry to say, you didn't swim there. But one day we were pulling tobacco, and it was so hot, and these boys that didn't. I knew better. I lived there. We were tenant farmers, but we were there forever. And they said, it was real hot. They said, there's some water down there? I said, yeah. They said, man, it's so hot. Let's go swimming down there. And it was so miserable. I went, and it's a wonder we didn't get bit, because it was terrible. But the reason that your comment made me think, it dropped off really quick. I mean, you took 2 or 3 steps, and it was boom. It was over your head. It had to be something like that. I will say, too, great white sharks, they will hunt for seals, and they'll almost go right up on the beach. And I don't really understand how they do it, but I've watched them a bunch of times. They'll go up and they'll lunge and then pull that seal back. You know, it's amazing the shallow waters that sharks tread in.
I never thought too much about it. God pulled it off.
That's right, exactly. He could do it. Look, if he could resurrect him or keep him alive for 3 days in the belly, he could do that. But it is interesting. It is interesting.
Having just been to Alaska and been whale watching,
Okay.
Vicky's comment is very interesting, because I think I always had the thinking, and maybe a lot of other people do too, that in order to see whales, you have to be out in the middle of the ocean. But that was quite the contrary on our trip. We weren't in the middle of the ocean at all. We were not very far from land. I cannot tell you the body of water that we were in, but it reminded you of being out on a tremendous lake. And we just went, our boat, of course they talk to each other, and they know areas where whales hang out, so to speak, to eat. And so we would kind of go from place to place. And the area that we probably saw the most whales in this particular day that we went was probably no further than from here to the parsonage from land. Like
Crazy.
the shore, so to speak. I mean, you know, trees and stuff, not like a beach like we think about the ocean having a beach, but very near the shore. So I can see, now knowing this and have experienced, I can see how that whale
How that
could
could
have
happen.
been so close to land.
That's interesting. Thank you. Sounds like you had a good time.
Just being subjected to Eastern North Carolina.
I know. That's my frame of reference too, Vicky. Any other comments? That's good. Thank you. Okay, again, thank you for coming, and let's close in prayer.
Terry,
Yes.
I don't think anybody mentioned it, but tomorrow is a very sad day for the United States as well, because it's September the 11th, and it's hard to believe it's been 24 years. I know we probably all know exactly where we were when we heard it, the panic. I know Laura Jo, Kay's sister, she called me in a pure panic, because she didn't know what was going on, and she lived right there by Voice of America, and all these things go in your head, and all the people that were lost, and all the people that died as a result afterwards.
Yes.
You know, that was a big loss for our country, and I think we all need to remember that.
I agree. You know, we were just talking, Vicky was just saying, you know, growing up in Eastern North Carolina, and I said, that's my frame of reference. Anybody that knows me knows that I'm a drag and I don't like to travel. But as fate would have it, guess where I was then? DC. Yeah, it was Vita. And
I was on a jet to Atlanta.
okay, that's even worse. Yeah. And look, I'm just gonna say this, kind of funny, but kind of true. DCMH was always cheap, and they would make you drive places when the other companies might fly you. We had to drive. I was never more thankful because other people couldn't get home.
You're playing in DC that day.
We went home. Yeah, we drove home, and we drove by the Pentagon. Matter of fact, me and this other boy that I was really good friends with, John Ross, we were there we had done a beta for their next SMS, the company. It was like the hospital used their software, and they had done a beta there. We were the first site in the country, or maybe the world, to go to this new level. And they'd worked with us for months. Well, afterwards, they want you to come and present it to all their other customers and tell them how wonderful it is and how they need to, upgrade as well. So that's why me and John were there. And John and I got up that morning. It was 9 o'clock. We were getting ready. We were scheduled to do everything, I think, at 10. But anyhow, we were getting ready, and the first plane hit. John said, "Look at this, Terry." And he said, "Wow." And a few minutes later, the second one hit, and he said, that we both said, that's terrorism. Well, we went, and I was supposed to do mine first half hour, and he was going to do his. I did mine. He got through a little bit of his, and then they're supposed to be there the whole week, and they shut it down, and there were all kinds of rumors going around about, the White House was on fire, and all this kind of stuff. There was all kinds of stuff, because just like it is whenever there's some major tragedy like that. It's kind of like today, Charlie Kirk, I heard there were multiple shots fired. Well, apparently there was one, but I mean, all kinds of rumors start flying whenever there's a tragedy like that. And it was just, we couldn't believe it. But I was thankful, and that was before cell phones, so everybody was trying to get to a phone booth to call their loved ones. But I was glad that Pitt was cheap and that we could get in their car and go home the next day. But we drove by the Pentagon, it was on fire. That was real. But anyhow, it's just.
My mom was on the at the White House.
Oh my goodness.
And the guard said, run to the
What was that last part?
The guard said, run to the White House.
Oh gosh.
She was on the bus, but she wasn't able to go walk. And she saw this low plane. And she said, what is that plane doing so low? And that's the one that went to the Pentagon.
Oh my gosh.
My mom had never gone to Washington D.C. My sister paid the way. She said, never.
Bless her heart. I don't know if y'all could hear that, but Donna was saying her mom was there at the White House on the lawn when it happened.
My brother-in-law.
And brother-in-law.
He drug her. He drug her back to the bus.
She said never again, did she?
But she said that bus driver could do the different routes, and he was wonderful maneuvering that in and out of that
It was very scary. Any other comments before we dismiss? Thank you for mentioning that.
What I remember was the quietness outside. When we were in Illinois, there was planes all the time up in the sky. And if you didn't see the plane, you saw the white tail. And there was nothing. There was no sound. There was no traffic out on the roads, you know. There was just that eerie quiet, not peaceful.
No, got you.
Eerie.
Unnerving.
For a long, you know, for several days, nobody could fly, you know.
All right. Pray with me. Father, Lord, thank you for your word. Thank you for this story of redemption in Jonah's life, Lord. Thank you for shaking us around sometime and getting our attention when we are not listening to you. I pray, Lord, that we would be attentive and we would not just be hearers, but we would be doers and do those things that you've asked. Lord, we know there's a dying world out there that needs the gospel, and we need to take it sometimes reluctantly, like Jonah did, but take it just the same, even when we don't feel comfortable. Help us to get out of our comfort zone. Help us to give us the strength of the martyrs, Lord, that were willing to put everything on the line and die like the different ones did. Many of them crucified, beheaded, etc., Lord. I'm thankful that we live in a place where we can still speak your word like we are tonight, Lord, and that we can still cling to the truths that we find in this book. And we thank you for it. We thank you for redemption. But we thank you most of all for Jesus. It's in his name we pray. Amen.